What is happening, UK? This is Tim on the Buzz. I'm with you all the way till 3 p.m. talking to you about everything business, tech, entrepreneurship. You know everything. You know what we're talking about here, so you know why you're here as well. Now, I've got a cool topic in the lines of travel. Now, we have been talking about the tech conversation. It's just keeping you updated on everything. Now, when we come into GMB and how they're looking at giving access to drivers, meeting hubs. I mean, now things are coming back to normal, right? Things are coming back to pre-pandemic levels in terms of transport, in terms of revenues for businesses or economies, communities rather. And how are we adjusting to it? How are things changing? What have we learned during the pandemic? Right now, this is where you start seeing how people are actually learning from how people are actually I'd say putting into practice what they've learned, right? So if you want to stay tuned to the conversation with how Uber is, changing their policies or the way they're working with their drivers. Stay tuned as I talk to you about how in 2017 Uber had threatened to, back out of areas, and then when you're talking about, how UK's Supreme Court had ruled that Uber's drivers were workers, but Uber didn't really, want to stick to that market, to that, term. Now they are seeing 30,000 Uber Eats drivers. So what I'm going to talk to you about is I'm going to be breaking down all this for you. So stay tuned right here on Relax Radio as I show you a couple of videos of who we are here on the stadium on the radio, and just show you a quick run through of who we are at Relax Radio.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup.
That's right. We have Relax Radio. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're streaming on all platforms, making it easy for you to reach us. Now, when it comes to our conversations, we want you to always, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your recommendations are, because when it comes to Relax Radio, it's always a conversation we have. Our shows are live, and we want it to be a conversation with you and us. So feel free to comment on this video, share this video, like it. We'd appreciate if you could share it with your friends. Just let them know if they're actually let whoever know that is in the travel or transport industry in the UK. And if anyone is considering joining on Uber as a driver, for instance, now the GMB union will basically be representing at least 70,000 workers in Uber for the UK, right? And when you're talking about the GMB access to drivers, these are meeting hubs. These will also be able to represent drivers if they lose access to the Uber app. And these will meet quarterly with management to basically work on the issues and concerns. Now, we know that Uber is basically massive, basically the biggest market shareholder in terms of how transport goes around, right? And people, when it comes to apps and transport, basically, I think coming to my honest opinion, I think Uber is basically just selling time. They basically buy time from the drivers, and the drivers are compensated for their work and their fuel, their depreciation in the cars. And also, this app works in algorithms where it understands demand and supply all the way down to the minute, right? And when I say that, I mean they are going to understand if shows are actually if they're going to understand if some shows are going to actually be broken down in sometimes are going to be broken down into high demand hours or low demand hours. So when we talk about the progress of Uber, progress is always a part of the importance of paying attention to the drivers or the employees, right? So what I'm saying is what I'm saying is we need to understand how the conversation with different drivers, or even if it comes to the employees, is respected. So that way it's not too highly disregarded. They are not too highly disregarded. They're always appreciated or things like that, right? Now when I'm talking about more when I mean respected, I mean given a decent status or given a thorough understanding on what their role is in the company, and giving them I think even into giving them health insurance would give a bit of respect to what they do, because they are at the end of the day a part of the process, right? It's not just the algorithm, it's not just the app, it's not just the software developers. So now coming back into the conversation, you need to understand how Uber's commitment level based on the company's past history has a lot of questions, right? So in 2017, Uber had threatened to take itself out of areas like Quebec, and then talking about areas that actually limit their favoritism. Now, in California, there's another rival called Lyft. That's LYFT, right? And these guys basically compete alongside DoorDash, Postmates, and then voters basically try to pass Proposition 222, which exempts gig economy companies, right? Now these are from a new employment law, and these guys have won. Although some drivers have been reporting failing wages. Now, although the app might come to an understanding of what the demand and the supply is, although if you're breaking down to the hour, right? Now, if I take my Uber app out, if I take my phone out and want to go from my place to my friends, or to, even if it's to work, right? I know that if it is a high demand or if it is a low demand, I know what time, or what the operational the costings, how the costings vary. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try to break it down in the lines of processors, or what time of day it is, where I am, considering the amount of cabs that are around in the area. So things like these are basically concerns or factors that come in to determine that cost. But is the whole cost is the cost given to the drivers? Is the whole cost, or I'd say the profit increase, is that all given to the driver? Because this is a common question here now. Now, just with that question, there is another concern in the lines of understanding if there is a lack of demand of drivers, because where regardless of how much the app can charge, you might be able to pay Uber on card or on cash. But what I'm saying is, although you have the cash option, you need to understand that you are running an operation with these guys, and then at the end of the day, they do take a fair share from the drivers. But are the drivers being paid enough? Are the drivers taking home a decent amount? Because there is a significant amount of depreciation on their vehicles. They're basically running around the whole day and trying to operate it in those lines, right? So now the drivers have basically won, but the falling wages are a bit of a concern, because Uber is now attempting a similar move in New York. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually break this down further here for you. I want you to stay tuned on the buzz, and then we'll basically break down the wages, and also talk to you about how they've overcome this problem. Stay tuned right here on the buzz, and I'm going to run through this operation with you very soon.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh. So that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
That's right. This is Relax Radio, and we are on all channels: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to reach us, if you want to watch our content, if you want to actually get the highlights, also just feel free to reach out on these channels as well to with any topics that you want us to discuss. Now, taking it further, now Uber and GMB have not really responded to these comments as such, but there is one significant group of workers that have been left out of ruling and excluded from this recent union agreement. This is about 30,000 Uber Eats drivers, right? Now the GMB also has spoken about accelerating Uber talks with these drivers, but then I think only time will let us know, right, how far we're looking at going with this conversation. Now, Uber has definitely agreed for union of UK workers, but what I'm thinking is, in the end of the day, you need to understand how far they're actually running for the operations and these contracts, what these contracts really mean. So what I'm going to do is, talk now about, the £1 million man that has basically man caves, right, in Greater Manchester, that is setting a trend for fantasy homes around the world. Now, this is a cool story. Now, we know we are, if you are on TikTok, if you are on Facebook, if you want to, watch, if you want to watch so many of these videos, or these videos that basically trend around the topics of people running into other people's cars, not running into other people's cars, but turning up into. There's this guy that basically runs up to people that are driving their supercars or luxury vehicles, and then he just asks them what they do for a living. And they basically you get answers like software, you get answers like investment, or equity, private equity. They talk about finance, they talk about software, so many topics like that, right? Now there is a £1 million man that basically he's called Man Caves, right? In Greater Manchester, setting a trend for fantasy homes around the world. Now, if you are trying to understand what these fantasy homes are, it's just a matter of following this guy or checking the content out. So if you have basically dreamed of converting your dusty old garage into something more useful, or when your friends come over, when your family comes over, you want them to see what they're talking about. Now when you're running the garage about 7 years ago, these results, when you're running transformation in your garage, if you have watched Pimp My Ride, or if you have watched things like West Coast Customs, these guys basically, or Trash is Riches, these guys basically take old cars, or standard looking cars, stock cars, say, right? We don't want to say standard old cars, or trash, right? So when you talk about transforming concrete shell garage basements to Giovanni's £5 million home in Hale, basically these look so stylish. If you want to check it out, just go Google Man Cave in the Hale property. It'll show you a couple of cool. It'll show you a couple of cool garages with ton of Aston Martins, and then you've been able to see like a ton of British cars as well. Now there's the McLarens, they've gotten it. You've got that circling in a glass dome, and then Simon's garage with about a $500,000 transformation. Now Simon Evans is basically he's basically motivated around the topic of having the sky as the limit for your clients. And then these are requests ranging from flotations of tank homes, spas, hydraulic swimming pools, Call of Duty themed gaming rooms, 2-story valeting, entire champagnes installed in private homes. Now Simon is basically a thorough, he basically is 48 years old. He believes in good design, and he believes that any home can transform itself into wide varieties of budgets. Now, with all his clients, he wants to know how, what you could actually enhance your life with. And, people come to you as specialists in the field of man caves from a design perspective, and then, understanding a number or two of how you can understand the buyers of the moment. But they've also understood how they have, pushed for a multiple. I'd say, understanding what they do now. Now there are so many rooms in this house. I'm telling you, if you have heard of the guy Dan Bilzerian, or if you want to know things around what this guy does, it's super interesting because my honest take, he's a good salesman. He knows how to sell himself to the younger, I'd say, the American or the male market in the States, right? Because what this guy is doing is he's basically drawing attention with girls, cars, a cool house, and talking about how much of interest, or how much of encouragement these guys are getting. So what my take is, to show that when you're linking things around, productivity, or when you're linking things around progress, architecture, these things, people basically love it, right? And what I'm saying is, when you're talking about this man cave looking thing, you've got super different rooms in the house. You've got a games room. You've got a games room. You've got a pool room. The garage alone is pretty lit. I'd say it looks pretty cool because it's not boring at all. It looks super futuristic. There's a spectacular pool with it's called floating day beds, right? So let's say you have the pool, you have a staircase, where the stairs are also lit, and then you have floating beds on top of the room, on top of the pool, right? And now these designs are basically by Uber Project. And when you're talking about the man cave mood board for the design for an Uber client, now it's amazing. I'd say. I mean, the lighting, the design, the materials used, it's superb. And coming to realizing, what motivates this guy. Evans is basically, he's worked with David Giovanni, and he talks about £1 million garage conventions, and these are. I mean, he produces videos, he produces shows around these, and then things around just the wine cellars. These are so classy, right? You have so much of property to promote. Now, when you're looking at things like productivity, when you're looking at things like progress or design, high life, lifestyle, these are things you want to keep an eye on. These are things you want to actually have a look at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to break the story down for you, talk about how he's worked with clients, who his clients are. Obviously, some of them are very confidential, but then, I'm going to be naming a few. Then talking about what his approach is to transforming or enhancing their lives. And then also, talking about how these bars, how these price positions, glaze through a bronze, framed window. So what I want you to do is stay tuned here on Relax Radio. Feel free to drop any comments on this stream. I can basically start answering them, or you can call me up on 07852473473. You can call me up right here now. I'll be on WhatsApp. You can call me up on the line as well, and then we can take it ahead from there. Stay tuned. This is Relax Radio, and I'm going to show you a bit more videos of who we are right here.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick.
Got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts mainly, one, because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in, like, calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know me too well, Nick. Exactly. I never said that, but yes, that's another reason why I wear them as well.
I mean, yeah, it's standard peacocking. I mean, most guys wear these, weird hoops on their ears, or they might have like a cut eyelash or something, an eyebrow or something like that, or some chains or rings. But you stand out properly. Anybody would want to know what's happening with this guy. Who's this guy?
Yeah, I just have to be different. That's all it is.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Again, but now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day. When you think about it, how people were, how do you say this, more disciplined, I'd like to say.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
Comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well. They get upset, and when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, I still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports, and if I had a bad game, for example, I'd say to me, "You had one to forget." That's it.
Your dad sounds like a smart guy. I mean, damn, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, "You had one to forget. Get over it." And that was it. So I'd dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Oh, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. Like, oh, it's gonna hurt your self-esteem, or people will not be able to recover from that. So it reminds me of this interesting story as well. When you think about it, back in the day, my dad used to tell me how our granddaddy, you can see, I'm part Sri Lankan as well. So my granddad from Sri Lanka, he was a farmer. He started off as a farmer. So when they had a bad day, they'd look in the sky and they'd be like, "Okay, I had a bad day. Well, it is what it is." And then they just continue their work. They continue their farming, and they forget about this whole thing. That's what I'm talking about. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid, I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure. You have the Olympic Games. If you come first, you get a gold medal. If you come second, you get a silver medal. If you come third, you get a bronze. If you come 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 20th, 30th, you didn't make it.
Yeah, tough luck. That's the truth of it.
Try again in 4 years, But now, the younger generation, diddums, I see it, it's...
Climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
They're talking about mental health. Well, if you went out and got some exercise in the fresh air, that will improve your mental health. It will make you feel better.
That's true. That is true. I wholeheartedly agree. But then for some people, it's how do you find the motivation to, especially when it comes to riding a bicycle, to do it again and again and again and again? It's a cycle that you have to be used to. How do you do it? What makes you wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to pick my bike up today. I'm going to cycle. What makes you want to do that?
What makes me want to do that?
Yeah. What do you like? What could you give listeners, like people listening in right now? What kind of tip could you give them?
Well, the first tip I would give them, if you haven't tried it before, try it. It can open up new horizons. It will make you fitter. It will definitely make you fitter. Cycling is one of the best forms of aerobic exercise you can do.
It sounds like, I mean, if you think about it, yeah, it sounds like great fun. Because what essentially you're trying to say is also at the same time, when you if you look at it from this perspective, with regards to mental health, especially when you look at it with mental health, this is another way to fight it. I feel like you go outside, you meet more people, you interact with, socially, you will interact with more people, and you're keeping fit, you're making connections, you're breathing in the good and exhaling the bad. I feel like that's a great thing right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got a better way with words than I have, I'll tell you. But you're quite right. What you say there. You're quite
I mean,
right.
I've been doing this for quite some time. I mean, hey, you'll get the hang of it.
I've been doing it for about 10 minutes now, so yeah.
That I can never really understand people staying in one room the whole day when you can have the world to see. I am a traveler. I travel. I love traveling. Traveling is just one of the things I do. And yeah, on top of my bucket list was, to one time, hopefully when I get there, go to Nepal and climb Mount Everest. That is one of that's in my bucket list. You're laughing, but that is the facts right there. I'd love to do that. That is something I'm looking forward to do, hopefully.
Climb Everest.
Mount Everest. I mean, okay, not the very tip of Mount Everest, maybe the base camp at least.
Base camp, yeah.
At least.
Would you be able to cycle there?
Oh.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, got me thinking. You want to stand out. Why do you want to stand out though so much, especially with these kind of shirts when you're riding? There must be a purpose behind it, right?
Well, when you say a purpose, Nick, what I do, I wear the shirts, mainly one because they're nice and bright, so they make me visible, especially if I'm riding on the road.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's very important, right? Because you want cars, yeah.
Very important. And also, like, people see me in like calves, and perhaps I shouldn't be saying this on here, I suppose, but in the bar afterwards.
All right.
And it gives them something to look at, and it makes them laugh. It makes them laugh, so that's why I do it.
Oh, and it could be a really good pickup line as well. Ladies who ask, "Hey, excuse me, so why are you wearing something so colorful?" I mean, hey, you can always have something up on your sleeve. I mean, you look like a guy who would do.
You know me too well. You know it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, "You've had one to forget," God, there'd be an inquest. Me, why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.